This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax.
Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back.
And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more.
Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today.
An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day.
An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy.
All so you can get the most money back guaranteed.
No waiting, no wondering, no worries.
Now this is taxes.
Get an expert now on TurboTax.com.
Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Ever wondered if there's a better way to gauge your compatibility with other people on dating apps? Well, there is on eHarmony. Thanks to their compatibility quiz, you can see what makes you compatible with other members. On eHarmony, you're one step closer to finding someone you can be yourself with without having to pretend to be someone you're not. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Ready to prioritize yourself in the new year? Your skin is a great place to start. Dime Beauty, founded by a master esthetician, is more than just a skincare company. With 4 skin-conscious categories, skincare, beauty, body care, and fragrance, Dime offers simple, spa-worthy products that will help you enter 2025 with confidence. Whether you're revitalizing your regimen with nourishing products or building one from scratch, Dime makes it easy. The Work System, our all-in-one best-selling routine, includes a cleanser of your choice, toner, serums, and moisturizers, taking the guesswork out of skincare for your healthiest, happiest skin yet. Dime's commitment to clean ingredients and sustainable packaging ensures every product is as gentle on your skin as it is on the planet. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews and a loyal community, the results speak for themselves. Revive your skin and give yourself the routine refresh you deserve by visiting dimebeautyco.com. That's dimebeautyco.com. Your best skin awaits.
Let me do the Patreon shout-outs real quick. This episode brought to you by the following... patrons: Leaf Girl, Min, Jason, Sexcalibur, Bones a lot, Madeline, Alyssa, Vixen, Holly, Laura, Jeremy with the laser eyes, Allie, Logan, Libby, Aaron, Kristen, Tia, and Jonathan. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're all a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group where we debate the merits of chasing down a woman in the desert daily.
I mean, not since Barbarian have we seen a more destroyed Airbnb than this movie. Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies and you guys make me watch them. And this week, Paige made us watch Revenge! Which, Paige, wow. Okay, so trigger warning up front, maybe?
Sure, I'll do a trigger warning up front. This movie definitely begins with a horrifying sexual assault. I will say that I think the film is very sensitive to what they show of that event, but the fact that it's even happening could be very, very triggering. So if that's something that you think might upset you, be aware that that is in this movie. And when we talk about it, when we go through the plot, we'll give you a heads up so you can skippity skip a little bit forward if you want to.
Yeah.
So keep an ear out for that.
Yeah. So, Paige, this is the first full-length feature film that at least has some English.
Yeah.
That the writer-director did.
Yes.
In 2017, 2018.
2017,
and they went on to do The Substance, right? Which we loved. We saw this year. So we thought, let's go back and watch this one. But was this your first time with it? Because it was my first time with it.
This was my first time with it. I had heard about it, especially recently because of how much buzz The Substance is getting. It's winning awards and well-deserved as well.
Demi just got a Golden Globe or whatever.
Yeah, Golden Globe. Yep.
Yeah.
And is up for the Oscar. I don't know how good her chances are at that Oscar, but it would be great. I would love to see her win.
Same, but she probably won't because the Oscars are terrible to great films. And a lot of those films are horror films.
They're terrible to horror films. Yeah. We'll see, though. Maybe they won't let us down this time. Maybe they'll, Toni Collette maybe will be avenged. Probably not.
Toni Collette gets to present the Oscar to Demi Moore is the only way they can make that right.
Would kill. So this was the first time I had seen this, although I had heard people mention it before and compare it to, there's a couple other films like this, in particular Martyrs. People have compared it to Martyrs. I do think they're kind of different, but subject matter, people have kind of compared the two. So, yeah.
I mean, I think like rape revenge is a genre of horror that we've done. Like, so there are probably a lot of movies out there that are kind of like this.
I meant specifically like French extremism films.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I haven't seen Martyrs, so I don't know. But yeah, you might be right about that. Yeah, man, I love that you can sort of see what eventually became The Substance, because this is also very colorful and very stylized and like heightened.
Yeah,
I love that. A lot of what happens would never happen. Like, it's not at all reality, but man, I love it. I thought it was awesome.
Here's where I landed with that, because yes, absolutely, this is a fantasy. It is not grounded in any sort of reality.
Yeah.
But much like The Substance, it's also not set in a real place. Like, there are hints of where it could be, but it doesn't actually translate to any real place on Earth. And they never address it or tell you that, right? So, like, kind of like The Substance, even though The Substance is air quotes Los Angeles, they never officially say that. It's kind of whatever. And it's Los Angeles where it snows on the Walk of Fame. So it's not reality. It's a hyper-realistic version of something that is meant to display a morality tale. And this is very much the same.
Yes.
And I really like, because after seeing both this and The Substance, what I think the director is really incredible at, taking things that would typically be the male gaze and even utilizing the male gaze to then subvert the expectations of the male gaze to tell a hyper-feminist story. And I fucking love it. I lived for this movie today. The gore is intense.
Yes, it is.
And I say this as somebody who is not bothered by gore most of the time. I had to look away a few times in this movie.
Paige.
It's intense.
It was rough.
But I also love that even in, this is a much more serious movie than The Substance. The Substance, I think, is more comedy forward throughout the movie.
Yeah, I think so too.
But even in the ending section of this movie, as the Home Shopping Network plays, I was dying. I was like, this is someone literally being like, women be shopping, right? As she is chasing him down to kill him. And I'm like,
yeah,
get it, girl. Like, yes.
Well, I think that is specifically talking about how capitalism will use the male gaze, but like through like showing very sexy women talking about their product and service or whatever.
Sure.
And they're like juxtaposing that against what's happening in the scene where like that person who was sexualized at the beginning is now chasing a greased up in blood naked man and about to kill him.
Yes.
And I loved that. I love that juxtaposition. What took me out of it is it's like a 30-second loop that plays 9 times. Same with the wrestling scene.
Yes.
It's the same scene over and over and over. And it honestly gives away like the budget of the movie.
Sure.
Outside of that, it's awesome. I love it.
Which again, much like The Substance, on very little money, this movie looks expensive. And that's one of the only clues that it's not. I also love, this was something I noticed, is the movie works very, very hard to maintain some of the trappings of her femininity, even as she flips the role of power in the movie. And I think that's very important, because I am a believer of there's no wrong way to be a woman, be whatever kind of woman that you want. However, within society, there are things that are considered more femme that are often societally tied to weakness, even though that is inaccurate. So to see her surviving and then hunting them while she still has her hot pink star earrings that I want, that she still has her hot pink manicure that is they are focusing on every time she aims that trigger. It is them basically saying she still has value, she is not weak, and the things that you would say are weak about her become her strength, because they never expected her to survive, and then she fucking murders them, and it's great. Love it.
It is great. I mean, she wouldn't have survived. She fell like 70 feet onto Joshua Tree.
Oh, 100%. And then burned it so that, I get it, but within the morality tale of the story.
Hang on 1 second, Paige. Burned it, and then what? The tree like spits her up like she's Geppetto and Pinocchio in her stomach. Like, it's insane that is how she gets off the tree.
It is. And I was sitting there and I was like, how's she going to get off this tree? And I do think that the way that she does in the movie, inaccurate and not maybe possible at all.
Because, like, arguably, setting the tree that you're stuck in on fire, terrible idea.
I mean, yes. I feel like when you have no other options, any idea is at least worth trying, right? I don't think that what happens to her would have happened in real life. But again,
No.
I don't think any of this is grounded in reality.
No, it's not at all.
And I think there's indicators that it's not. And so for me, it's more at that point about the metaphor and morality tale of what they are kind of laying out.
It didn't bother me at all that when she uses that phoenix that's on that beer can to like cauterize her wound, that when they show it on her stomach, you don't see the beer can letters on the image that's on her stomach, even though it fully would be.
You do. It says Mexican beer, except it's the right side. It's not mirrored, which if you burned it onto you, it would be mirrored.
Right, sure.
But also, like, it wouldn't burn onto you anyway, because that is actually a plastic layer on the outside of the can. But again, like, these are all things that, like, we could talk about it all day.
Yeah, I don't care. It's awesome. I thought it was dope as shit.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Although the gore in this is really, it was a lot. Like, it was a lot for me. And like,
each of these people has conservatively 8 people's worth of blood in them.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person would have bled out.
When they are running through the house.
Oh my God.
Just making that back hallway into the bloodiest slip and slide I've ever seen. Like, it almost is funny because they're just like running in circles more or less after each other. And like, he's been gut shot and it's so funny, but it's also like.
And saran wrapped his waist.
Yes.
Which I thought was very fun.
It's very Pickle Man, but whatever.
Well, it's very, and I guess maybe this might be me reading too much into it, but like, that was a thing back in the day of women trying to lose weight and reduce their size with saran wrapping literally the same part of his body that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you sweat more or whatever.
Yeah, you sweat. Yeah.
But no, I really think it's like, it's cool. It's a great story. It is a lot like the mythical, logical stories of like Persephone and the Phoenix and like all of that. Because, you know, she more or less comes back from the dead and then they're in a desert.
Right.
Which to me can easily signify hell.
Yes.
And she is like fighting her way out. So like, that's the Persephone angle. Anyway, I think this writer-director, whose name I could say, but I wouldn't be able to say it correctly.
I looked up so many pronunciation guides.
Because listen, I could say it the way Americans say all of those letters in that order, but that's not how French people pronounce it because they have no respect for the letters you find in anything. And they just like go after it.
Can I tell you that I was met with the same problem and I went and tried to look up other people pronouncing it to see, like, you know, and I found a pronunciation guide that said Coralie Fargiat, which to me sounds Frenchy and sounds close. But then I found a bunch of videos of Americans pronouncing it 14 different ways and her never correcting them.
I wouldn't either, honestly. Like, I have a weird last name and I never correct anybody.
Yeah, because you're like, we can't. That's fine.
Like, they'll be like, Shaluzer, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. I don't care.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think Fargiat sounded close. So that's what I'm going to go with. Coralie Fargiat. Whatever it is, I'm seeing every movie she makes at this
that's
point.
what I was getting to.
Because she's 2 for 2 for me.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
But I think that like she has a metaphor she wants to tell. Like, it just seems so intentional that like reality really isn't reality. We're going to be hyper focused and hyper stylized the whole movie, and we're telling a morality tale on some level.
Yep.
And they have a very specific like style. The way they shoot it, like the storyboards are I would imagine look very similar to the storyboards they created for The Substance.
Yes, yeah.
Like the close-up mouth shots and just the way they present.
Oh, there is if you thought The Substance shrimp was gross, surprise, there's another one of those in here. And I was like,
ever seen someone eat a Milky Way and then wanted to vomit? Well, this movie will make you want to do that. But yeah, I really do love their style and I can't wait to see like the next thing they do. Because I think they should get like a studio to give them $150 million to make whatever they want.
Right? Well, and my hope would be, because they do so well with the budgets that they've they have. Because here's the thing, The Substance isn't a cheap movie, but it's not an expensive movie for what we see, right?
Right.
Like they made that dollar go a long ass way. Same here. I would love for somebody to give them $150 million and for them to be like, cool, I'm going to make 6 movies. Like, that's what I want. But I'm like, what would they even do with that much money? Like, what could happen in their imagination that's not happening now?
I mean, yeah.
Fascinated.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next because it's going to be great. I did really enjoy this movie, but it is very hard to watch, even like after the obvious sexual assault scene, which is like so. I hated it so much. Like,
we'll talk about it when we get there because I do think they made wise choices in what they did as far as the movie making part of it. Yes,
I think that they presented it in a okay way. Like it's a terrible thing to witness. So like
before we dig into it, because we wanted to give people a trigger warning.
Yeah. Maybe we should just table it until we actually get to it in the thing.
Yeah, table it till we get to this.
Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, I think the movie is great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a little bit crass for Shudder to suggest that I watch this movie fully well knowing that there's someone that throws a t-shirt into a burn barrel that says I love LA on it, and we get to watch that burn. I was like, wow, little too soon, Shudder. But no, I'm just joking. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, oh, this is very timely. Because Paige just had to flee to Northern California to escape the fires of Southern California.
And transparently, I posted a thing on Instagram for a crochet thing I'm working on. And Armando, who is still in Los Angeles because his neighborhood's in a different part of the city and their house is safer, he commented on it, was like, yo, this is fire. And he's like, I mean, I hope it's not. I really hope this doesn't burn along with your house. And I was like, thank you. Thanks, bro. So I spent... Let me give you a little preview of what my outfit was yesterday.
Okay. Welcome back to Paige's Fleeing the Fire Fury. Let's do it. How fierce can you look? Well, a refugee from the burning of LA.
Checkered Vans.
Damn, Daniel.
With the fit again. Gray plaid pajama pants. A bright blue shirt that says Writers Guild of America.
That was for the strike. You were wearing that during the strike and you left it in your car, and that's why you have it.
That's why I have it.
I love ADHD.
Oh, hey, I'm telling you, ADHD means that I keep remembering things that I left and I'm like, fuck. And then I keep finding things that I have that I just had on my person. And I'm like, yes. And it's just alternating. And then I had my new sweater I finished with flowers on it that I posted on Instagram. So not a single piece of clothing matched. And then I had glitter sunglasses on because they were in my car.
Paige, you're so put out by this fire that you fled the city and had to make your own clothing is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I'd been wearing them for somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 to 42 hours at that point.
They were getting ripe.
Yes, but we were in Target. We had finally made it to the base. So we got to Target. And for the first time I looked down, I turned to Jake and I was like, I look like a kid who was allowed to pick their clothes for the first time.
Yep.
And he was like, yep. I was like, all right.
You walked into Target looking like you were walking into Walmart. Like, I love it.
Walmart could never. So I'm wearing fun Target sweatshirts because, as I just told you before we started recording, I did not grab clothes out of my house.
Right.
I went with the bag of clothes that was already in my car, but that is the Comedy Go bag. And so I basically only have show clothes.
I want it on the record that I called that.
You called it.
I also have ADHD. There are climbing shoes still in my trunk. I haven't climbed since 2023.
Right. Yeah. No, I grabbed things like my grandma's quilts and these really creepy paper mache clowns that my other grandma left me.
The important shit.
Honestly,
all of those sound super flammable too. So in a fire, that's going to be the shit that goes up that burns the rest of your house down. So that's smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to those of you wondering if I grabbed any Pyrex, no, but I did Google how likely is it to survive a fire, and turns out pretty likely. So that stayed.
Good on you, Pyrex.
Good on you. But yeah, no, I did leave the house with one pair of shoes and no deodorant. And so thus the Target run. And I'm basically going to be wearing a dress with skulls on it and a very cool silver foil looking space jacket for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so you're going to look dope as shit. Quit bragging, Paige. Quit bragging about how dope you're going to look. But, Paige, maybe we should just go through this movie scene by scene.
Let's do it. We open on the majestic desert and a helicopter dropping our leading lady and the guy that she will murder on a slip and slide made of blood later in the movie, dropping them at what I would call a mid-century ranch-style desert paradise oasis home wonderfulness.
It's like a hunting ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and here's why I said earlier that this place doesn't exist in any sort of form of reality. There's a lot of trappings within this house and the desert that they're in that would suggest that it is the Mojave Desert or Joshua Tree, right? Because you have Joshua trees.
That's why I said Joshua Tree earlier. Yeah.
Right.
But I actually do know where they filmed it. I thought that that's what they were trying to say it was.
Sure.
But they didn't. They filmed it in the Moroccan desert.
Yes. And you can kind of tell because of some of the sand and stuff that's not common in American deserts, and the spider's a little bit different. But you do have like Mexican beer that would suggest that it was California as well.
Yeah.
But also this house looks very, very much like a number of houses in Palm Springs that are architecturally famous for their mid-century and brutalist styles. So like it is very much the appearance of that. And I think some of that is more just to suggest the amount of wealth that we're kind of dealing with the men that are after her, without actually saying this is where it is. The other thing that would suggest that it's not California, not only the sand, but the water. The fact that they find water and the fact that they're hunting at all, because California deserts don't have a lot of animals. In fact, deserts in general don't have a lot of animals. The one animal we do see them kill is a coyote, which is common in California, maybe not as common in Morocco, not sure.
Never been there. Don't know.
But there are enough inconsistencies that you're like, this isn't any one particular real place in the movie. And I think that works for it not being grounded in reality, for this being a morality tale.
Me too. I don't care where it is.
Yeah, much like The Substance is.
Yeah.
And I do love the director playing in that arena of like a hyper-realistic place and time that suggests things that you know and will bring up things that you think about and know within our current society, but doesn't settle on one specific place or time.
Yeah. But you know this is immediately going to go bad for her because she took a helicopter to a second location with a Frenchman, or really anybody. Like
anybody.
I wouldn't know. You don't do that.
Never get in a helicopter.
Ever. Ask Kobe. Like, just don't do it.
Ask a lot of people. That's one of those things where a ton of people, I've been in a helicopter on the ground. I've never been in one in the air. No plans to change that anytime soon. Too risky. Anyway.
Yeah.
It is the cinematography from Jump Street is incredible. If you liked the way The Substance was shot and looked and the scoring and all of it, this movie is also for you. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It is. It's beautiful.
But the helicopter drops them off and hands something to her boyfriend, Richard. We will find out later that it is peyote, which is another thing that would make you think it is the California desert. We do be having peyote.
And a lot of people like go to Joshua Tree specifically to do that.
Yeah. Now, we'll talk about the peyote when we get to the peyote more later. But yes.
Have you ever done peyote? Are you like going to give you your real? Okay.
No. We'll talk about it when we get there because most people do peyote a very specific way and there's a reason. We'll talk about it when we get there. But we embark on, basically, they have a whole day and night of them kind of hooking up. They're clearly there on some sort of lover's retreat, but in the middle of it, he answers his phone and it's his wife. We hear a baby crying in the background.
Oh, yeah.
And she's planning for a celebration for one of their children, because there are clearly multiple children's first communion. And he is like, plan all of it, hangs up, and then proceeds to sleep with his mistress, Jen.
Yeah.
So we know right off the bat, he not a good dude.
No, I mean, they're having an affair. That's his affair partner we're seeing.
Yeah, they're having an affair. He does compare her butt to an alien, and I was like, is it because it's out of this world? But
I think that's what he was saying. Yeah, because he calls it a peach too, and it's not in Georgia.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
I definitely do think he is a fan of her butt. And I also think the director is, because we see a lot of it.
So I think that's actually intentional, right?
Me too. Yeah, it definitely is. Because we see a lot of his at the end. Like, it is juxtaposed at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's specifically the flip. I also think that there's a reason that it is shot the way it is, because the butt shots continue throughout the movie, but they change in tone, right? So in here, it is very much very male gaze. And later, it's almost just like, look how fucking badass she is in almost nothing. Like, she don't need pants. And you're like, no one needs pants, really. That's why we left them at the house to burn.
I do think that, like, he needed pants at the end, because he's, like, trying to fight for his life, dingleberry, and flapping in the wind. Like, he could have used some pants.
Flapping out.
Yeah.
He could have. But he don't have none. Anyway.
He don't.
So they have, like, one whole day of their vacation. She gets up the next morning. She's going to get breakfast. And who should show up but two men with guns? It turns out these are her boyfriend's friends. And they are all there for a hunting trip. They were supposed to come a day late. So she was supposed to be there, and they were supposed to have like a 2-day romantic getaway. Then she was supposed to leave. They were supposed to show up.
Yeah.
Now, they do something really interesting where in this scene, she picks up and takes a bite out of an apple and sets it out on the counter. And as the apple starts to go bad, the situation in the house is similarly going bad.
Yeah.
The apple is basically a visual representation of like, it's rotting.
Yeah.
All of this is rotting. This is bad.
Yeah. It's great.
So the friends are like, who is she? And her boyfriend has to be like, you were supposed to be here tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, we figured we'd come a day early. It'd be fun. And he's like, you weren't supposed to meet. You aren't supposed to know I'm having an affair, this whole thing.
Right. I would be way more concerned if unexpectedly two dudes showed up with hunting rifles.
Oh, yeah.
She does like scream and drop the glass or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when he comes out and explains it, he's just like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. I would have been like, I'm very uncomfortable with this situation right now. Like,
Yeah.
I thought what we were doing was a secret, and now two rich
Yes.
dudes know, and they showed up with guns.
Right.
Am I about to be hunted? Because
Right.
the implication, like, I would be very concerned.
I think this is the movie telling you. Like, the movie knows this situation isn't safe. These men shouldn't be trusted. You as the viewer should never trust them. Ever.
Right.
We're never meant to think they're okay. She's in a position where she can't easily leave.
No.
And the boyfriend's like, oh, they're my friends. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And they seem to have a fine evening where they're all kind of eating and dancing. Her boyfriend doesn't want to dance with her. And so she dances with one of his friends. It doesn't go any further than that.
It is just a dance. Like, it is not even
It's just
overly
dancing.
sexual. She's not stripping or anything. They're just like
No.
dancing like you would at the club.
Yeah.
So like, I thought it was crazy that he built this up in his mind the way he did. Anyway, we'll get there, but that's fine.
Because he didn't. It's all about power. Anyway.
No, I know it's stupid.
But that's also why I like the way that they do it later. We'll talk about it.
I know. Yeah, I know.
We'll talk. But she then ends the night with her boyfriend. Now, in the midst of that night, her boyfriend reveals that he has peyote, but he doesn't want to do it. She takes it and puts it in her locket. That will be important for later. So she is in the possession of the peyote. We cut to the next morning. And again, the first shot we get the next morning is that rotting apple. Things have gone bad. It's bad now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, everything's going bad because, like, one of them is hung over in the pool, just like with the thing on his head. Her boyfriend, affair partner, whatever, is gone.
Yeah.
And it's just the other creepy French dude.
Right.
Who is, like, creeping on her. The other guy who is in the pool was also creeping on her the night before, though, with, like, we really get the male gaze because the night before, he's looking at her through the binoculars from like point blank range.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to see anything really because it would not,
No.
his eyes would not be able to focus on her. It's like so close. Anyway, that guy's an idiot and he is an idiot throughout the whole movie.
Well, and I think it's very telling some of the ways that they are killed in the end represent some of the transgressions they have in this beginning first act. But she goes to sit down to breakfast with the other friend who's not hungover.
Right.
And he wipes like suntan lotion off her back without asking. Creepy.
Well, he was putting on like lotion or suntan lotion or something.
Yeah.
And then he like hugged her good morning or whatever. And he got some of it on her.
Yeah.
And then he wipes it off or kind of wipes it in like you do with sunscreen or lotion or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's not like a welcome touch by her. And you can see that. She's
Right.
like, ugh.
And he basically tells her, like, the other guy went to go turn in our passports to the gamekeeper, basically, because this is a hunting reserve or whatever.
Yeah.
It'll take all morning. So he's going to be gone for a while. He also says, he's like, the other guy's hungover. That'll also take all morning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just the two of us. And she's like, okay. And so she pulls out her phone. Now, we never find out what she does on her phone in this moment. But in my head canon, because we hear the sound of like playing games on the phone, I think she was pretending to play games and was texting the boyfriend because the boyfriend comes home pretty soon.
I mean, we don't know the passage of time really because
We
it cuts
don't
from
really
the
know the passage of
events
time.
to, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was only going to be gone all morning, which is what, like 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah, I don't know. But at this point, I'll give you the trigger warning. We're about to get into the real rough thing that happens. So
Yeah.
if you want to skip forward a little bit, here's your notice. She excuses herself from breakfast. Is like, I'm going to go pack because I'm leaving today, so I might as well go pack.
Yeah, the helicopter's going to come get her as soon as her boyfriend gets back, more or less.
Right. We cut to a few minutes later. She's getting out of the shower and getting dressed, and he's watching her get dressed. Immediately not good.
Right.
Not good.
And it wasn't like he came in there to ask her a question or offer her something
No.
and like stumble, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He was like, oh, I didn't mean to scare you.
Right.
Like, and just continues walking into the room.
Right.
It was like he felt like he had the authority to be there, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yes.
And that she shouldn't have been scared, but he apologizes for scaring her, not for walking in on her.
Right. And then stays. He doesn't leave. It's not like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, he stays.
Right.
And he's basically like, hey, here's my card so we could do something sometime. And she's like, I think I'm going to be busy with work. And he's like, fuck you. And makes her tell him why she doesn't like him. Now, here's what I will say. Because she does say, she's like, I like tall guys. You're not tall. I don't feel bad for him at all in this moment. Because if he had not encroached upon her privacy and made it awkward, she would have never said that, right? Like, she would have just gone about her business. He's in her space.
Sure.
He has created a situation in which it doesn't matter what she says, everything is wrong. Like,
I see what you're saying, and you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I think that even if that conversation had happened over the breakfast table where things were still weird, but not like predatory,
Right.
and she had just said, you're not my type,
Yeah.
he should have left it at that. Never ask a
Yes.
follow-up question to you're not my type.
No.
Because then whatever they say next is going to spin around in your brain for the next 30 years and make you very insecure. So never ask a follow-up question to that.
also, she's there with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's there with her boyfriend. Why are you even asking? Like, what is
Paige,
going on?
they're rich.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I got the vibe that she wasn't necessarily rich.
No. And we do know that she wants to move to Los Angeles. You know, that's kind of all we really know about her at this point.
Yeah.
But so he's making it awkward, and then he gets menacing. He stops her from leaving the room, pushes her up against the glass. The other guy, the hangover guy, interrupts, and he says to him basically like, are you going to do this with me? Because if not, fucking leave.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
And the guy closes the door, basically leaving her to be assaulted,
It's so terrible.
knowing that that's what's going to happen.
You see her like crying and you see his face behind her. Like he's like pushing her up against the glass and it keeps cutting to the other guy while he's eating like a Snickers or some kind of candy bar.
Yeah.
And it's like really close on his mouth. These are the ones that are a lot like what we see later in the Substance.
Right.
They're just like really close on that guy's mouth and gross. They're very gross. And then he closes the door, walks away. She starts to scream, Paige,
Yes.
because you know what's happening behind the door, although I'm glad we didn't have to see anymore.
Right.
And then he stops as she starts to scream louder,
Right.
turns around, turns on the TV, and then leaves. It's nuts.
Well, and then goes to swim in the pool that faces the window where the assault is happening.
Yes.
Now, here's why I said earlier I actually kind of like the way the movie did this, because I think a lot of time when people depict sexual assaults on screen, they have a tendency to, you know, get into the nudity and like show it. And I feel like this movie did a very mindful job of displaying the horror of that situation without making it exploitative.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. I think that shows that the director understands where this fits within the movie. Do I love people getting sexually assaulted in movies as a plot point? No. Do I think that in this movie it serves a greater commentary within the societal narrative? Yes. And so I do think that the director understands that, and that's why they chose to display it the way they did.
Yeah. It's not like it's not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's presented in a way that is palatable, I suppose.
Sure.
I definitely understand if it's not for you. And I'm not trying to say that, but it could have been way worse. And I've honestly seen it done way worse in other movies. So yeah. And I do feel like the director, being a woman themselves, like also handles it with care. And that's great.
I think palatable is the wrong word so much as it's directed at where the focus needs to be directed. And that is on how horrific it is, how much they are the villain, and not look at this happening to her. You know what's happening.
Yeah.
You don't need to see it.
It's all behind a closed door. Well, not all, because we do see him
The window.
put his hand sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But almost all of it's behind the door.
Right. But we cut to sometime later when her boyfriend comes back, and both of the men are sitting on the couch and they're like, hey, there's been a problem.
There's a problem with your girlfriend is what they say.
Right.
And they're like, and we knowing what we know as the viewers are like, I don't think the problem was with the girlfriend ever. Like, I don't think they did anything wrong.
Right.
You were the guys who I assumed, Paige, that they both took part in the sexual assault. It was just not at the same time. I might be wrong about that. That would be great if I was wrong about that. But they both are like, I don't know. If I was the other guy, I don't know, man. I would have stopped it. But like,
here's what I would say. I don't think they both took part in the same way. Does that make sense? Where like Stan definitely commits the assault.
I mean, we see that. Yeah.
But, and we don't see Dimitri participate, but we do see him not help. And I feel like they're supposed to both represent two different types of men in society.
Yeah.
One, the predators, and two, the ones that are like, but he's my friend.
Yeah.
And that's his transgression. That's why his eye gets stabbed, because he saw it and did nothing.
I mean, he definitely deserves to die for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because he knew what happened and he did nothing. Now, what I think from this interaction with the boyfriend, because I don't think on the screen we can prove, I mean, we only saw what we saw, so we can go with what we saw.
Right.
But I do think that the conversation with the boyfriend implies that this is not the first time that these friends have been together, and this is something similar that has happened before, because he kind of goes in, tries to pay her off, tries to get her a job in Canada, and then goes and like berates the friend. But the thing that he says to him is, I only left you alone for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And which you should be able to leave them alone for any amount of time, because like that shouldn't be a risk, because you shouldn't do something like this.
Yeah.
But to me, this says that he knew his friend was capable of this. And it maybe wasn't the first time. And that's probably why he didn't have them there at the same day.
They're both terrible people. They are friends.
Yeah.
So if you're a terrible person and you know your friends are terrible people, you might ask them these questions upon returning when your affair partner / girlfriend is like catatonic in bed begging to go home.
Yeah. And also, I'm going to say, why are you still friends with those people?
Oh, Paige, they're all rich.
Oh, no, I know what the people in the movie are. I'm saying if you're listening to this and you know one of your friends is terrible, but they're still your friend, question that.
Oh, yeah.
Question that.
It's easy to cut friends out of your life.
Yeah. But she wants to go on the helicopter. She wants to go home. But he's like, I can't let you go home because you know too much at this. Like,
right.
If you go to the cops, if you talk about us, anything. And she's like, call the helicopter or I'll call your wife. And he hits her, which, here's the thing. I was under no belief that he was the good one of the group, because we know he's having an affair. We know all this stuff about him already.
Yeah, we know enough to know he's not going to be on her side in all this.
But we have heard him berate his friend already. And I think that this slap is here to basically say to men in the audience who might have shitty friends, he's not the good one. He maybe didn't do it. He's still bad, and they're all going to die because they deserve it. Like,
yeah.
If you thought that he was going to help her, no. He's helping himself. Like, this is who this is, And so she takes off running. Good for her. Wish she'd grabbed shoes first. But
Yeah.
she takes off running. She needed her pair of checkered Vans.
That's what she needed. Boom.
She needed her checkered Vans.
And they were like, damn, Daniel, she like took off.
Damn.
'Cause I actually sort of love the shot. I don't love that it's happening, but the shot is cool.
Right.
It's like her running
Yes.
from the two guys on the couch's perspective. And they just see her run, and then they see him run. And then they're like, oh, fuck, we got to go too. And they get up and run. It's like, it's such a cool way to show that. And it's like, that's how it would happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't speak between the two of them on the couch.
Right.
They just like see the girl run, then the guy run, and then they both just like look at each other for a second and jump up and run after them.
Right.
It's scary though, because then it cuts in really close to her, like panic running. And then the other guy, like her affair partner or boyfriend dude, like very focused running at her.
Right.
And then of course she runs up to the cliff she gets shoved off of here in a second.
Yeah, and he lies to her. He's like, okay, I'll call the helicopter. He'll be here in 30 minutes. And as soon as she relaxes for a second, he pushes her off that cliff.
Yeah.
And she gets impaled on what appears to be a Joshua tree. Now, at this point, his friends are like, what the fuck, dude? Because I guess for some reason they were like, rape is fine, but murder? Like, ridiculous.
Everybody has a line page.
Oh my God. Anyway, they're like, what the fuck? Now we have to clean up a body. Like, first we just had to pay her off and make her go away, but now we have to clean up a body. And he's like, we're going to stay here on our fucking hunting vacation. We'll clean up the body. We'll hunt the way we normally would. No one will look for her. Don't even worry about it. So they go back to the house and they burn her clothes.
It's almost like a perfect plan, really, because they're already in the middle of nowhere. They're already there to hunt. Nobody knows she's with them because...
Right, because it was a secret.
Yeah, because they're having an affair.
Right.
So he has been in regular communication with his wife, who thinks he's there with his two friends and nobody else. So like they have like plausible deniability and like it's the perfect plan, really. It's terrible, obviously, but I understood why they thought they could get away with it, I guess is my point.
Right. And so he comes back to the house.
But also clean up the body first. Like, don't go run to show us you burning the I Love LA t-shirt in just the perfect wrong moment.
Right.
Like, right now is not the right time for us to see that.
Not the best time.
Go finish the job. This is like, to me...
There's a trigger warning for someone burning LA in this movie.
Yeah, guys, in case you were worried, we do go into the fires. But I did think that it felt like a 1960s or 70s Bond film to me. Yeah. In the way that the bad guy like ties up James Bond, explains his plan, and then walks away. And doesn't finish the job. Although in reality, that shit would have killed her.
Right.
So like, I get it also.
Right. And they do go back to the house and he just calmly calls his wife like it's nothing and finishes the phone call, and his friend is like, hey, I'm really sorry about Jen. And he's like, who? And he's like, Jen. And he's like, never heard of her.
He literally says, never heard of her.
Never heard of her. She's not even a person to him.
Which to me lets me know he's a CEO, because the percentage of CEOs that are also sociopaths is pretty high.
Same with surgeons.
That's because it's they're pretty much CEOs.
You got to see people all opened up and shit.
And I'm out. Sorry. But a lot of them are. So I was like, oh, this guy must be like the head of the organization. If this is Enron and we're watching what really happened in the documentary, The Smartest Guys in the Room, like this would be the CEO character, and the other two guys are like the higher ups of the company that are also making shitloads of money.
Right.
Because he is a full-on sociopath.
Absolutely. But we cut to her, and she wakes up impaled on that Joshua tree with her hot pink iPod shuffle, which it made me want an iPod shuffle. Isn't that stupid?
Yes, it is stupid, because your phone does all of that.
Because I have a phone. Yeah. It does the same thing. But I just want a hot pink tiny thing to carry around.
You're like the beeper king on 30 Rock, thinking technology's cyclical. It's not coming back, Paige.
My bro, if they made a hot pink, like, okay, do you remember when like Nintendo DSs and Game Boys would be like purple, but you could see through them? Like that kind of... I want a hot pink see-through beeper like hot pink glitter see-through beeper. And if one of you has one, send it to me.
Beat me on it.
I lost all my see-through beepers in the fire. Please send me one. I didn't have any. I just want one. I also want a ring watch. Super impractical. Want one too.
Who are you going to call to get service on your beep? Like Bell South? Like, what do you do? Like, do you have to get service from 1998 too?
I'm just going to use it as an accessory. I'm just going to wear it so people think I'm mysterious.
Oh, I fully support that. I fully support wearing like Walkman that don't work or like beepers or shit. Like, yeah.
Well, this is like when we were Christmas shopping for some of my cousins, my much, much younger cousins. My sister and I are in Target and we're like, I don't know, what are the kids like? And my sister was like, oh, I fucking got it. And then she turned around and she was holding 2 Tamagotchis. And I was like, yes, bitch. Do they probably have phones that have a gigapet thing on them? Sure. But we're buying them fun Tamagotchis.
Let me buy you a keychain that will make you feel guilty every time you pick up your keys.
Also, I found out the Tamagotchis are like $20. Why do I feel like they were way more expensive? Or maybe it's just because we were children and had no money. I don't know. Who knows?
I never had a Tamagotchi, but I would have killed it. Like I shouldn't have.
Oh, I 100% killed mine.
Yeah.
Like so many times. My sister had a Little Mermaid one where you would keep Ariel alive. So that means that if you didn't feed it, Ariel died.
You killed a literal Disney princess.
You killed Ariel.
Sebastian will never recover.
Oh, he's going to kill himself a crab. That's what he's going to do. Anyway, so she uses her AirPods, or not AirPods, her headphones, like her little ear pods, to like drag the lighter closer to her, sets the base of the Joshua tree on fire, which the movie implies that the flames climb up and weaken the branch that she's impaled on so that it cracks off and she falls off. And she does have a burn across all of her back.
She does.
For the rest of the movie to suggest that that is what happened.
Yeah.
Even though the giant wound through her midsection does go away.
The tree spit her out like it was a whale and she was Jonah. Like, it is insane that it happens this way. But also, it doesn't matter. It's all like a heightened fake reality. So I was here for it. Whatever.
I'm going to choose that the desert decided she was its agent of karma. Or this could all be a Jacob's Ladder scenario in the moments before she passes away. But I'm going to choose hyper, ultra violent reality, like non-reality morality tale.
I definitely do understand the David's ladder of it all, because you could say this is just a fantasy she's having as she's dying. Right. And we're watching that fantasy.
Possible.
But really hope it's actual heightened reality and we're just getting to watch her murder her affair partner while he's just running around naked and scared.
Love it.
Naked and afraid, Paige.
Naked and afraid. And I do believe that the latter, the heightened reality morality tale, is the director's intended.
Oh, 100%. It's just like The Substance. Yeah.
Right. So they come back to the cliff and they look over and she gone. So they come down to the base of the tree.
But it's like, it's so tense though, Paige, because they come over and they're like walking up. One of them's drinking, like I think it's the bigger guy. I can't remember their names because they're terrible.
It's a beer because he has the second one in his backpack that she uses later. It's like it's a tall boy.
It's Dimitri. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
He was like drinking a tall boy and he throws it off where they pushed her, or her affair partner pushed her.
Right.
And it like lands almost where her foot is, just like scooting up towards the base, right?
Right.
Because if she's right against it, they probably won't look over. They won't look that close to the edge to see if she's right there. And they don't see her when they look over, which also, if I watched my friend that I was going to go to their hunting lodge with push his girlfriend over the edge of this cliff specifically, I would not stand so close to him as we look over the edge of it.
Yeah, because you're a witness and an accessory. And
exactly.
Hey, 2 men can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Yes.
That, yeah.
But he doesn't do anything. They just look and they're like, oh my God, she's gone or whatever. And they have to go down to where she is, which is not super easy because it is down like in a, I don't know, would you call that a canyon?
Gully?
It's like a gully. Yeah.
Gulch?
There's like a little, it's honestly like 70 feet.
Ravine.
It's pretty far down. Yeah, ravine might be right.
Yeah.
Ravine.
Yeah. No, I think a ravine has a river. I think it's down there.
It's a 70-foot drop off. I don't know. Whatever.
Right.
But they have to hike, or they're on 4-wheelers. They're on various desert vehicles.
Right.
And they have to like go down there. So they do, but while they're doing that, she is like running off. I actually did look, okay, if you had a pierced through and through in your midsection, how long would it take before you could walk again? And if you got immediate medical attention, they said earliest was 48 hours.
Yeah, well, okay.
And you could crawl immediately, they said, but walking would take 48 hours.
It depends on where in your midsection it goes through.
Well, no, I was like lower abs, like which is like where it is. It's like,
right.
Yeah, it's like right above her hip bone.
Right. It's because of the muscle that you wouldn't be able to walk.
Right, exactly.
Because it misses her spine, clearly.
Yes.
But I thought of this like a gunshot to the stomach, where it's like, you know how it takes a long time for a gunshot to the stomach to kill you, and it's because you bleed out?
Yeah, which would take 2 days. Like I actually looked that up too.
Yeah.
Because that would take about 2 days.
Which, potentially this all gets done in 2 days. Now, the one thing, and again, it's not real, it is a hyper stylized version. The one thing that I think maybe keeps her from bleeding out is that she doesn't take the branch out. She leaves it in until much later.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that saves her. But again, walking would be so hard.
Yeah, I mean, but it's all that. This is one of my pieces of evidence for it's all a heightened reality and not what would actually happen, because you wouldn't be able to walk. Like she would fully just die. But that's not a fun movie. That tells me a moral that I think the director wants to get across.
Right.
So like, I don't care because it's fun.
Yeah, look, there's not actually a substance drug. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And I do want to watch her kill these motherfuckers. So like, I don't care that the tree spits her out like her name's Jonah. Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Calling all dog owners. Your furry friend deserves top-notch nourishment, and Ollie delivers the clean, fresh nutrition your dog needs in 5 flavors they'll absolutely flip over. Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world, with absolutely no harmful fillers or preservatives. With protein-first recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes, fresh turkey with blueberries, or fresh lamb with cranberries, you might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste test a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/Wondery. Tell them all about your dog and use code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/Wondery and enter code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie.
Anyway, so they notice that there is a trail of blood, and so they're going to follow the trail of blood to try and find her, because now they're like, she lived, we gotta kill her.
Yeah.
And even the friend who committed the sexual assault was like, okay, first we could have just paid her off, but then you had to try and kill her. Now we have to kill her. Like, now we have to hide a body or whatever. And this is why I think he's the only one that actively participated, although I do think the other friend is guilty because he let it happen and didn't intervene at all.
He's accessory during the fact. Like,
yes,
he may not have done anything to her himself, but he allowed it to happen.
Right. But the reason I think that it is Stan who actually physically participated is because when Richard confronts him in this moment, he says, you seemed to have a lot of balls yesterday when you were basically causing this problem.
Yeah, they're fighting over whose fault it is, more or less. And in truth, it's both of their faults, because her boyfriend, affair partner, brought her there. And he sexually assaulted her, forever changing the dynamic of the trip. Which led to her running away, which led to him pushing him. There's no one who is not at fault other than her.
Right, exactly.
There are varying degrees, but no one's innocent.
Except her. Yeah, except her. Yeah.
I read a review of this, and I don't know if it's important to what the metaphor that they were trying to get across is. A lot of people view Jen as not innocent in it either, because she's
an affair partner?
In an affair. Yeah, exactly. So, like, I don't give a shit about that.
I don't either. Yeah.
None of that means you can do what happens to her.
Exactly.
So, like, I vehemently disagree with that take. Like, that, I saw that and I was like, gross, let's move on.
Yeah, that's insane. That is an insane take for this movie. Anyway, so they follow the blood. They end up at a small body of water, kind of like a little oasis, and they decide to split up. Where Dimitri's going to go on the quad bike, Richard is going to go on his motorcycle, and Stan is going to stay with the heated seats in the car. Now, she is on foot, and she notices Dimitri and has to kind of hide behind a rock, but notices that Dimitri seems to be peeing and has left his gun unattended. So she tries to sneak up on him.
This was smart, honestly.
This was really smart.
Because it was really smart on his part, for the record.
Yes.
Because it's a trap.
Yes.
Because the gun is just sitting there and he looks like he's peeing.
Right.
I don't think he is. I think he is waiting for her to see him in the headlights and see the gun that is also well lit against that rock.
Yep.
And to do what she does, which is I'll grab the gun and shoot him with the gun.
Right.
And she does exactly that. And this gun is, I actually know what this gun is. It is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They call it the rifleman's rifle. It's a Winchester 70. Which shoots Paige like 30-06 rounds. If you look at the bandolier she's wearing when she starts using this gun later, those casings are
thick.
They're not huge, but they're like pretty big. It's not like, this gun is not for hunting people, but only because it would like open you up. Like those bullets are so big. It's like for shooting big game, like elk. Like if you were going after a bear, you might take this with you. Like it's that kind of game. And like the fact that she shoots him in the shoulder later and he's just like shooting his gun with that shoulder.
Yeah.
As like the shoulder that's catching the kickback of the gun. I was like, no, he would not be able to do that because he would not have a collarbone.
Yeah.
Because it would have blown his shoulder off.
Yes.
That gun is a massive gun. Anyway.
So she goes to grab it. She goes to shoot him. It's not loaded. And he's like, you fucking idiot. Of course it's not loaded. This was a trap, right? This is a trap. And he tries to drown her. But as he's trying to drown her, she reaches around and grabs the knife off his belt and stabs him in the fucking face, right in the eyes. I fucking loved it. I was like, yes, bitch, get it.
Yeah, it was gross, but like it's a 7-inch blade, more or less, that goes into his eye to the hilt. So it's like all the way back. It is like in his brain, and he lives for maybe seconds. Like he does like flail around for maybe 30 seconds. It's really quick, but like maybe she didn't hit him directly in the brain, but that would kill you quickly, I'd imagine. And he does go down quick.
He goes down, he dies. She pulls the knife out.
Yeah, because she's going to need that knife later, Paige.
Well, and now she's got his knife, his gun, his backpack, his bullets, everything. Now she is a hunter. She is as equipped as the rest of them. And unlike the rest of them, she has actually made a kill based on skill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not on trickery. The way she was pushed off the ledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about the way they're displaying them all as hunters, where they have a bunch of different tricks and gadgets and whatever, but they don't have skill. And I think when they're talking to Stan about like, oh, I'm glad we got the Land Rover with heated seats to go hunting in. These are people that are leisurely shooting things that are no threat to them. And that's how they viewed her too. But the reality of the situation is she is the one that will outsmart, outwit, and outgun all of them. And I think that's an important distinction.
I do love that they are pretty much just like, you know, when you see like those
gun tourists.
I don't know, I'm going to make it up, but it's, like a gun tourist, like a 300-pound dentist who goes and shoots an animal in maybe in Africa or somewhere from a helicopter. And like, there's no skill involved. It is like just there to murder. Like that is what these dudes are.
Yeah.
So they're not like hunters or survivalists. They are just elite douchebags.
Yeah.
And this is why I think they position her as lower class. Obviously, I think it plays in with the metaphor too, but it also makes sense to me that she is scrappy and she knows how to get by because her life has not been as cushy as their life has been.
Yeah. Or at least not recently.
Yeah.
So she's got a gun, she's got stuff. She goes on the quad bike and she rides it out until it literally runs out of gas. And she continues on foot into a cave. This is where she makes a fire with her lighter, which I thought had melted at the base of that tree, but I'm not going to question it. Maybe he had a lighter. Who knows? Some lighter. She drinks the beer And then she leans back and she's trying to deal with the branch that's still protruding from her abdomen.
Yeah, because she's been walking around this whole time with the branch in her tummy.
Yep. Now, she opens the locket with the peyote and tries to eat it but spits it out because, and this is where we'll talk about it, peyote don't taste great. Honestly, most peyote trips start with people vomiting. That is part of it, where it will make you throw up, but that's typically when the trip starts. Now, most of the time when people do peyote, they do it guided with like a shaman the same way a lot of people do ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Because... so there are some hallucinogens that kind of require a buddy, and others that it doesn't matter if you have a buddy, it's going to be what it's going to be. So like DMT, you go under, nobody could help you. You are dead to the world, right? LSD, you could have a buddy, and that will kind of influence the kind of trip you have. Same with mushrooms, where like if there's someone with you to kind of talk you down, if things get a little weird, that helps. Peyote is very much the same way, where your trip is very dependent on someone being there to kind of guide you through it most of the time. So a lot of times when people do peyote, they do it with a guide. She don't have one. So she about to embark on a wild trip, but it's likely going to help with the pain.
Of course. That's why she does it. They actually set this up when they're at the pool.
Yeah.
Remember at the pool when she like kicks off her shoes and is dancing sort of by herself and they're talking about the peyote and like how the guy heard a story about a dude who sawed his own leg off while high enough on peyote because he didn't feel a thing.
Right.
They found him later with no blood inside. Like it was that whole thing, right?
Right.
So that kind of sets the stakes here of, well, if I do the peyote, I can perform this operation. Like she's about to perform surgery on herself and not feel it. But I will argue, Paige, that she does have a guide through all of this.
Oh, yes.
And that guide is Mozart, because you can tell she starts tripping when I think it's Symphony number 25 in G minor.
Right.
And the only reason I know that is because it's in the movie Amadeus.
Yes.
And I have that soundtrack. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, I know this song. Is this what you hear when you do peyote? Because I would do this.
So auditory hallucinations are common, but it's dependent on who you are. But this is much like Midsummer, I think, is a really, really accurate way to visualize visual hallucinations. I like that this movie didn't really take a ton of time to try and do visual hallucinations and focused on the auditory. And then later they present the rest of them as kind of like nightmares. And I feel like that is more accurate to the hallucinogen experience than most people portray on screen. So I thought they did a really good job here.
Me too. And the body horror in this section and pretty much for the rest of the movie is so gross.
It's super gross.
But it's like really effective. They did a really good job with it.
That said, though, peyote does not necessarily make you not feel pain. You could feel a lot of pain on peyote. You just might not care. That's the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the end result's the same, though. Like, if you're cutting into yourself and you're just like, I don't care, pain don't hurt or whatever,
right?
Then, like, I guess peyote up because you're about to have to dig out a tree branch with a serrated knife.
If you want to dig a branch out of you, you want PCP.
Paige, you only have the drugs you could fit in your locket. Like, you don't have access to, like, a plethora of drugs.
I'm just saying, if you have a choice, PCP. But so she takes the peyote and she heats up her knife and uses it to cut open the beer can that she has.
Yeah.
And cuts open portions of her wound so that she can get a clean removal of the branch without tearing. And then she heats up that beer can and uses it to cauterize the wound, which in this movie, and I know it would never happen, but it looks badass as fuck.
It's awesome.
It burns the logo of the beer can onto her.
This whole thing is shot really well. Aside from it just being very effective gore,
right?
It all looks, I don't know if it's realistic because I've never done a surgery like this, but it looks realistic to me.
Right.
And it's also shot sort of beautifully, if that makes sense. Like when we see her seeing the beer can that she's going to use to cauterize the wound, it is like you see the phoenix from her perspective and it's on the other side of the fire. So the fire flames are just all around the phoenix.
Right.
And you're like, oh, this is just like the mythological story about the phoenix.
Right.
And she's about to use that shit to cauterize her wound, and she does. And then when we see it later as like the scar.
Love.
I bet someone has that tattoo.
Oh, I'll Google it after if my computer doesn't die. But so
Did your computer help with the assault page? Is she after your computer too?
I didn't ask questions. I'm a bad friend. But we cut to the next morning in the Jeep, and Stan wakes up because Dimitri has not come home, and
Right.
Richard has, and hunted a coyote on the way. And they realize, they're like, we have not seen Dimitri. Dimitri's not checking in. And so Stan goes to clean up in the water, but it is the same body of water that Dimitri died in, and who should float to the surface but Dimitri's body.
Man, when you see Dimitri's body and it's so clear that like a lot of water got in through his open eye hole,
Yep.
it's so gross because his face is like swelling and distorted. I've never come across a body that has been in the water overnight. I'm not in an episode of Law and Order, so like I don't know, but it looks, I would assume what it would look like, and it's gross.
It's super gross. Now, they put him back in the water, and they do get in an argument where he's like, if you hadn't pushed her off the fucking cliff, he's like, if you hadn't started this, like, whatever.
Well, yeah, they do fight. So like, and I at this point in the movie, when I realized that Richard is riding a motorcycle and is wearing, I'm going to say it, Paige, an awesome blue jacket.
It's an awesome jacket.
I love leather jackets, and this guy's got a great one on. He's still a bad dude. It's just a great jacket. But when I realized that he was riding a motorcycle around the desert, I just immediately switched to calling him Cool Rider because we just recorded our episode on Grease 2 for Romancing the Pod, having fully realized after we recorded it that we've never done Grease 1 on Romancing the Pod.
Yeah, we don't need to. It's fine.
It's a great movie. Grease 2, not so much.
Everyone knows it's good. Yeah.
Anyway, so I started calling him Cool Rider. So I was like, Cool Rider punched the rapist in the face as they argue over, like,
Yeah, breaks his nose.
who caused this? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it breaks his nose. But they then start to like, oh, we got to like find her. So they formulate another plan.
Yeah, they're going to split up and search the mountains for about 3 hours. Now, meanwhile, we cut back to her in the cave. And she wakes up. She's got the coolest fucking phoenix thing across her abdomen. She wakes up thinking Richard has found her and exploded her head with his gun. It's a nightmare. It happens a couple different times until eventually she wakes up. It's not a nightmare. She gathers all of her stuff and sets out into the desert because now she gonna hunt them.
Yeah. She has become a Fremen.
Yeah.
And she is going to hunt down Richard Harkonnen or whatever these dudes are. She is going to kill them.
Yep. Absolutely.
She's the Cuisinart mad as fuck, Paige. Like, that's what it is.
That's right.
And she's going to kill them all.
She's a Benny Gesserit. Anyway, so like they split up, but she, with her binoculars and everything, sees the SUV in the distance and waits for it to leave and then follows it.
Yeah. She sort of sees through the binoculars the ending of their conversation where Baron Richard Harkonnen is like, the prey has become the predator and now the hunter must fear its own shadow. Such audacity.
Yes.
It will not stand here in my dune or whatever.
Well, it's gonna stand.
It is. It's fully going to stand. I mean, Baron Harkonnen dies, spoiler alert, at the end of Dune. Like, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a good reference, Paige, is all I'm saying. The connection works.
No, I agree.
But she sees the ending of that conversation. But because Richard goes the other direction, right, because they were going to split up.
Right.
And Stan goes the direction that she can see. She follows sort of him and hunts him next.
Right. And so she follows on foot. His car runs out of gas, so he gets out because he had an Always Sunny sort of plan to sell gasoline door to door, and he's got gas in the back seat. So he goes to refill the car. She sets her sights on him, shoots, and hits him like right in the collarbone, which you're right. His collarbone would fucking explode.
Paige, his shoulder would be hanging off of his body. Like, that bullet is so big and it travels so fast, it would do a lot of damage.
But he like kind of runs. She follows the blood trail like they did for her.
Yeah. So Paige, I think that this is very important because he is like just running down the road or whatever, and he ties off. He stops the bleeding at least enough so it's not like causing a trail anymore.
Right.
So the trail's gone. He also loses a shoe. We don't really know why, but we see a shoe on the trail.
It's because he needed the sock to tie off.
Ah, that's why. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's tied off with a sock, and now he's not in front of her on the trail, and she looks down as if like, where did he go? And then keeps going down the trail. Now, this also happens in the last fight,
Mm-hmm.
and she chooses not to go down the trail, which saves her life.
Yes.
So, like, I really like that she makes this mistake, and then they show that she learned from it later.
Yes.
I thought that was great, because at first I was like, okay, you never walk past the end of the blood trail, because
Right.
a trap be on that other side.
Right.
And that is exactly what happens.
Yeah, because he fires and he shoots part of her ear off.
Yeah.
So she loses one earring, but she still has the other one.
Yeah, she looks great.
She gets up, and as she kind of gets up from being shot, she takes her flashlight, breaks it on a rock,
Yeah.
and then proceeds up, knowing that he's going to chase her and follow behind her.
Yeah.
He steps on that glass with his bare foot. And this is the hardest gore of this movie.
Yes.
Is him trying to dig the glass out of his own foot.
Fully agree. Let me ask you a question to see if this is why it also was your grossest moment of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done exactly this?
Not to this degree.
I have.
Not to this degree, but like a small piece of glass, yes. And it's so fucking painful that you're like, I can't even fucking imagine what that would feel like. Like, whoa. Ugh.
So this exact thing has happened to me. I was at I was running around a trailer park barefoot. I was actually running from my friend's trailer to the pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a grass section, and apparently the night before someone had drank a beer and broken a beer bottle, and the base of the beer bottle was broken. And it was sitting flat on the ground in the grass. Like you could not see it.
Right.
And there was one really pretty sharp point that I just ran onto. And it went into the heel of my foot. This is more, when it happens to him in the movie, it goes like sort of middle of the foot. And I do think that's the worst way to get it.
I think you're slicing tendons and shit at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. The heel is, I don't know that there's a lot of like tendons and shit in the heel.
I have no
and
idea.
I honestly
but yeah.
do think I got really lucky, but it hurt like a bitch. It hurt so bad. And I was out of commission for like probably a full ass day.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
I was just like laying around. And then, I had to go get stitches and stuff. And then I probably couldn't walk normal for a week.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it was bad.
Well, and the scream he lets out when it happens, I was like, that's real.
When that happened to me, it was way higher pitched. But yeah, I was also like 15. So like...
When he pulls the glass out and he's like, ah, ha, ha, I was like, I feel you, man. Like, yes.
I know. I still had it embedded in my heel too, and I had to pull it out. It hurt so bad.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
For me, it was a very, very small piece. Ugh.
I did not go swimming after that.
No. He limps. He gets back to the car, but then he's trying to start the car and get it to turn over because it ran out of gas. So even though he put gas in it, you got to like turn the car over.
Yeah.
And he's doing it with the bloody glass foot. And I'm like, man, I know it's tough, but switch feet.
I know. Like, just use your other foot, you moron. I literally wrote in my notes, did this guy forget he has another foot?
I think he did.
So dumb.
Honestly.
But yeah, like as he's like stepping on the gas, you see more blood squirting out of his foot. And you're like, oh, that would be so painful.
But she just waits for him to drive toward her. And he, in his mind, he's like, I'm going to run this bitch over because there's no way she's going to shoot me in this car. She fires once, twice.
3 times a bullseye.
Dead as fuck. And then she just walks up, dumps him out of the car, and gets in the car and drives. And I was like, yes, bitch.
And she shot him through the head. Like brains would be all over that. She is sitting in his brain is my point, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
As she drives away. I honestly thought that when they did this, she was going to shoot. And if she hit him or not, great. But either way, she was going to move out of the way and he was going to go over the edge because he's on sort of like a little...
Yes, yeah.
It's a place that you're supposed to drive, but like if you go off, you're off the ravine. Like you're going to fall far enough to kill you.
Right.
But it doesn't. Like
right.
She shoots him through the face and the car just stops, I assume because his other foot's on the brake.
Right. Now, meanwhile, Richard has made his way back to the quad where they had kind of met and split up before.
Yeah.
And there's no sign of Stan. And he waits and waits, and he's like, not here, not coming. And you see Richard realize, like, she got him. Like, he did.
Yeah.
So he goes back to the house, and he, like, washes off in the pool and then ruins that perfectly good couch, which is going to be covered in blood later.
Paige, this whole Airbnb or whatever is
destroyed.
Fucked. Like, I love what they do to this. And there's no way they didn't shoot this whole scene or this whole sequence chronologically.
Right.
Because there's no way your art department could keep up with exactly where those blood smears were, right?
Right. You could not undo it.
But they're all where they all are the whole time. So they had to shoot it chronologically. chronologically.
Yes.
Like, I bet that was such a difficult sequence to film.
I believe it. Yes. So he calls for the helicopter. The helicopter's going to be there in 30 minutes. Perfect bookend to the lie he told her earlier. I also loved the painting behind him of what looks to be the Madonna, because
Yes.
it is definitely this whole kind of Madonna whore complex, which is why people be blaming her because she's an affair partner when none of what happens to her is her fault. None of that is justified. Anyway, he goes to take a shower. Stupid.
Man, I thought it was so dumb because he calls the helicopter guy. He's like, hey, come get me ASAP. I dropped off the other dudes at the airport. I just need you to like air vac me out or whatever. I guess.
Right.
And then instead of just like waiting with his shotgun on the couch until that helicopter comes, he's like, I guess I'm going to get naked and take a shower or whatever.
Right.
I only got 30 minutes to clean up.
Yep.
It's insane.
So dumb. But then he hears something. He gets out of the shower. He grabs the gun. He goes to the living room. He goes through the whole house. So we get an establishing
Yes.
path of the house.
I love that they do this though. And you might think like, oh, why do we need all of this? We need all of this because we're going to see like a ring around the rosy in this house.
Yes.
And he walks all of it and shows all of it to us. I will remind you, fully ass naked.
Oh, yeah.
And so like we know the layout of the house and we sort of did before, but now we really know it. And they're going to use every inch of this house to kill each other with.
Yep. Now, he then sits down on the couch again, sits on the remote, which turns on the TV and it turns on that shopping club commercial, which I do think is very pointed and specific, which I talked about already. We don't need to go back over
Yeah.
it. But.
But when this happened, I was like, damn, just like Buttercup does, because my dog will sit on our remotes like it's her purpose.
I love that. But he looks up from the shopping commercial and she is outside the window, gun trained on him, and she fucking fires. She shoots the crap out of him. And then I thought we got a very specific shot of him crawling away naked and bloody. That's usually a shot that final girls get. And I was like, that's right. That is exactly the subversion of the male gaze, is literally making him the victim in that moment.
Yeah. I don't know if victim's the right word, but yeah, like he's presented
Well, yeah,
as
he's
like,
getting what he deserves.
yes, absolutely.
The more vulnerable of the two. Let me put it that way.
But this is very much the flip. And honestly, I think him walking around the house is the start of that because he is walking around the
Yes.
house scared and naked.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of it like mid-back and up, but as he walks out over the pool, like that little small section where you can walk out, he's just fully ass naked because we can see all of them. And then like later in the fight, he's just flopping around. You see all of it.
Yeah. But so he crawls and then runs.
Yes.
And grabs his gun. And now they're hunting each other through the house. And she's following the blood trail, but this is where he kind of tries to trick her. He hides behind that corner where he like walked the blood trail out and then walked back and he's in that corner.
Exactly.
But she's learned from last time.
Yes.
And she looks down and she sees blood pooling at the doorway. So she knows he's there. So she then goes back around the other way because this house is like one big circle.
It is like a circle. Yeah.
Yeah. She goes back around and he then also moves. So this is the point at which the chase begins of like them running the circle of what this house is back and forth, ruining this Airbnb. He manages to get to a room and saran wrap his waist to stop some of the bleeding so he's not leaving a trail, but it doesn't matter. There's enough blood to make a blood slip and slide at this point. But initially she gets the drop on him. He runs. She then tries to run after him and slips. So he gun butts her in the head. And I'm like, fuck, like, no, she got this far. But as she wakes up, he's dragging her up to keep fighting because he has to have the last word. And he's like, who do you think you are? Did you think you were smart? You thought you could win? That the only minute that was possible is if you had just left when I offered you the money. And instead, she punches him in his gunshot wound.
It's not even a punch. She sticks her hand in it. Like she is grabbing his organs. And I was like, oh, good for you.
Good for you. She grabs the gun, cocks it, does not hesitate, and fires.
Now, there is a brief hesitation. Like as he grabs it and is trying to stop it, but he is covered in his own blood.
Yes.
So his hands are slippery. Like he can't really control it. And she sees it.
She locks eyes.
Yeah. They like lock eyes and she's just like, oh, you're gone. And shoots him up against the wall. It is so great. But like she does take a beat. And it's almost like she's gloating a little bit, like I won.
Yes.
And I love that.
Well, and then she, on the floor, she gets up. She's still alive. And at this point, I'm like, there's less than 4 minutes left on the runtime of this. This movie is relentless to the last second.
It is.
She walks out. QVC is still on. Hilarious. She then walks out to the pool, the same naked walk that he did, almost gloating of like, I own this now. And then she hears the sound of the helicopter and looks over her shoulder. And that's the movie. Do you think she kills the helicopter pilot, or do you think she just takes the helicopter home?
No, I think she tells the helicopter pilot what happened.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I feel like that helicopter pilot is just a helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
He is like an Uber for the rich team that like came out here, right?
Right.
So I think he's like, oh my God, let me get you to a hospital and the authorities.
I hope so. I hope that helicopter pilot takes her to the hospital and the authorities.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my hope at least, but who knows? But Paige, having seen this movie, having talked about this movie, what did you think about Revenge?
Oh, loved it. Loved it. I had a good old time. It is very, very bloody. So if gore gets to you, I understand. It's shot beautifully. The set's incredible. I was not bored for a second. You could maybe trim some of those longer shots out, but I wouldn't. This movie doesn't feel slow ever. I really, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see anything the director does in the future.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Honestly, all of that. But if you watch The Substance and were like, this is a great movie, watch Revenge. Unless you can't because of the subject matter, which I understand.
Sure.
You'll like this movie. Like, it is very well done. The hardest part for me is because I'm taking notes during the movie, when it's like French and subtitled, I have to like stop taking my note and look up and stuff. And that's frustrating. But like, if you can just watch the movie and just enjoy the movie, it's so watchable.
Yeah.
You might could cut a little bit, like you were saying. I don't necessarily know that you need to do that all that much.
You don't.
And a lot of the stuff, like you could cut, it's more the action-y stuff that I kind of like anyway. You know, it's like them running around like with the gun, building the tension. Maybe you can cut some of that, but it's fun. You know, like that's the action stuff. Like I wanted more of that, honestly. Like when they find Dimitri's body, I wanted him to be wearing, like on his shirt for it to say, now I have a knife and a gun and a backpack, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
Like make it more Die Hard. Like I'm here for it. Anyway, it was great.
Yes.
But I do think if you can handle the subject matter of this movie, and obviously if you're listening to this podcast because you like horror movies, watch it. It's great. But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Nice. Well, here it is with your fun facts. Revenge.
Fun facts. Now, the use of the male gaze in this movie is very intentional, and the director has actually commented on it in a number of interviews and has said that they specifically used the male gaze, especially to show her dancing with men, because she wanted to embrace the polarizing image of women through the male gaze, where Jen may not be a complicated, smart character. It doesn't matter. She could even be an object of desire if she wants. It doesn't make the sexual assault okay. And that's what she was trying to do with that male gaze of like, yes, this may be this kind of person, and maybe this kind of person is enjoying this attention. That does not make a sexual assault okay. The sexual assault's never okay.
Right.
And I think that's something that they did in The Substance as well, of like, it is understandable that someone would want to be pretty and perceived in this way. It does not make the pressure to do so okay. Like, I think the director is very, very good at acknowledging, but then also subverting those themes. Great. There is a small village behind the villa, but they deliberately avoided filming it to basically create the sense that they're totally alone.
Yeah, I think you need that for it to play out the way you need it to play out.
Now, this film, especially in the ending sequence, featured so much blood that according to Coralie Farjat,
the director, Paige.
The prop team often ran out of fake blood. I think that potentially when they did The Substance, they were like, let's outdo ourselves, because The Substance in the final section, in that final sequence, used 36,000 gallons of fake blood.
That's so much blood.
It's so great. So clearly this is something the director likes to do, and I think it's fun that it is happened twice.
They had to increase that blood budget for The Substance.
That's right. They also mentioned that one of their main inspirations for this movie was Steven Spielberg's film Duel. because it generates tension with very few elements, basically a car and a truck, and that's it. Other inspirations for this movie were Wild at Heart, which is a wild David Lynch movie, highly recommend. Drive, which you and I both love.
Love Drive.
Under the Skin, that I haven't seen, and many of the films of David Cronenberg. That does not surprise me at all. I heard someone describe The Substance as body horror for women by women, which I think is a fantastic descriptor for that movie. This would fall under that as well, given the amount of both practical effects and gore. The music was inspired by John Carpenter.
Yeah, okay.
As well as Etienne Jamet and Thomas Bangalter. This was also selected to be screened in the Midnight Madness section of the Toronto International Film Festival, which is a very prestigious festival, as well as the Midnight Shivers program in the Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival, both in 2017. Now, this was shot over about 5 weeks, which is, it's a pretty normal time frame for a movie, but given the level of cinematography as well as the blood and the set deck and things that needed to happen, that is actually a pretty short timeline to make something like this happen. Now, one last note that I will actually put here that I thought was really, really interesting. Jen, the protagonist, has no speaking lines after the 26-minute mark of the film.
That's crazy.
Basically, from the time they push her off the cliff,
yeah,
she never speaks again. Now, there is also, as we kind of mentioned, mystical themes throughout the film. The themes of rebirth and transformation seem to be huge in this movie, both her coming back from the dead, also the Phoenix, also her changing from day to night, life to death. Very, very Joseph Campbellian, if you want to think of it that way.
Oh, the classic hero's journey. Like, she follows every step of it, more or less. Yeah.
Yes. Now, when she first sees Stan outside the door in the very beginning of the movie, she shatters a glass and sidesteps it, not hurting her foot. Some people believe this is foreshadowing for what she will do to him later. Now, I'll end on this one because it's pretty fun. The shop ad, Shop Club USA. The website is myscusa.com. Miscusa.
And they do say it, Miscusa, which I was like, oh, that's like a word and they're trying to sneak it in. I know it, but I'm too dumb to know what the word is.
It is. In Italian, Miscusa translates to I'm sorry or excuse me.
Nice.
Which I think is very, very notable in that scene, because not only are we getting the image of the stereotypical women of shopping, but also people putting other people in front of themselves and being like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, the deference that women often are reserved to in society. So I do think it was very funny that as she is asserting her space in the world, revenging that guy that brought all this to bear on her life, it is still saying women be shopping, excuse me, as a direct kind of contrast to her actions. And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for this movie? And I'm just going to say in 2017, because that's probably when they filmed it. It didn't hit its very limited theatrical run here in the States until 2018, though.
Right. They filmed in Morocco means they definitely saved some money there.
I would assume so, yeah.
It is largely a closed system. It's single locations. You've only got 4 actors. That said, there's a lot of filming outside, and that gets a little bit difficult. But I'm going to say that this cost them $7 million.
Oh, Paige. I mean, I definitely understand why you thought it was $7 million. It's $3 million.
Oh my God. This looks incredible. Incredible. Give her all the money.
I agree.
God.
I mean, when she did The Substance, that movie had a budget of $17.5 million. So they did give her more money for that one.
But still, $17 million for The Substance, literal miracle worker. Do you have any idea how damn near impossible it is to make a movie that looks like that for that amount of money with famous people in it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet the only real difference between that and this is the cost of the people who are in it. Because that movie also, although it's probably a little bit more expensive because it isn't a single location, it's close to it, but it's not single location. This very much is, right? So I'm sure they spent a lot on cameras and gear, and the people who were in it got paid, but it's way more expensive to get Demi Moore than it is to get the actors who were in this movie. Anyway.
That's like Benson and Moorhead level of making use of your dollar, of making things look incredible for no money.
Two other creators that I think we should just back up the money truck for, because those guys can make great stuff for a budget.
That's one of the main reasons I watched Loki season 2 is they're like, well, they're letting Benson and Moorhead do it. I was like, oh, so it's going to be good? Great.
I know. I honestly, that makes me want to watch it more. Okay, so let's talk about its very limited, what I'm going to call domestic run, even though
Sure.
domestic for this movie really should be France, I think. But
Right.
we're an American-centric podcast and we're nothing if not,
American.
Yeah. So it came out May 11th. It was only in 37 theaters, Paige. So what do you think it brought in when it was 45th in the theaters the weekend of May 11th, 2018?
I'm going to say not much.
Again, it was only in 37 theaters.
I think this makes $300,000.
Oh, it's way less.
Oh,
it's
geez.
$45,924 in its opening weekend. And then it was 45th that weekend, right? And just to place it in time, number 1 that weekend was Avengers Infinity War. Number 2 was Life of the Party. Number 3 was Breaking In. Number 4 was Overboard. Not the one you want it to be.
Right.
It was like the remake Overboard. And then number 5 was A Quiet Place. So that's around the time period this came out in theaters in the US. But again, it was only in 37 theaters at its highest theater count. So it only brought in a total of almost $100,000 domestically at $99,000. It did bring in $1.2 million internationally, which is probably more its domestic. A lot of that was in France. But worldwide, this movie only brought in $1.3 million. So it wasn't necessarily a financial success. The movie won a ton of awards, and Shudder did invest in it in so much as I'm sure they paid to put it on their platform early on. And that, I think, really helped elevate the director and her profile. And I think just how good this movie is made people take notice.
Yeah.
If I saw this and I had a studio, I would call this person to be like, what are you making next? Because I'm interested.
Yeah. I would back up the money truck.
Same.
Absolutely. I think the festival circus helped this out a lot too.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's why Shudder picked it up, because they saw it at a festival.
Yes.
And they were like, shit, we need to get this on our platform immediately. And I only bring that up to say that they pay money to stream those movies.
Yes.
So I can't see what that deal was worth, but I did say this movie wasn't a financial success, but it might have been. I don't know.
I bet it probably was at the end of the day, because I bet there was a bidding war. Because if people saw this at a festival, this is the kind of movie that people get in bidding wars over 100%.
I think so too.
And here's the thing. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that some of my favorite movies of the last 10 years are small movies like this by somebody with a fucking vision that got in a bidding war. And so this is why I'm ultra critical of movies that have huge budgets that don't do much with it, where it's not on the screen and it's not in the script, because other people are, scraping by with $3 million, making something that has a whole vision, a whole look, a whole style, a flawless script, and they're having to scrape by with 3 million and barely anyone gets to see it because they don't even have the money to release it. So if you ever hear me being hypercritical of a studio film that is irresponsibly using their money, that's why.
You say this all the time when we talk about this kind of stuff, but it doesn't cost you anything to really focus on your story and create a good story.
Yes.
And that is essentially why they were able to make a movie for $3 million that is this good.
Right.
But yeah, no, I agree. I love it. I think it's great. I hope I never watch it again though, because it's hard to watch. And that leads me to our next segment, which is, Paige, do you want to hit him with that scary scale?
Sure. Our scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 on a scale of how scary we found the movie today. 1 being Ghostbusters, 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd, what you giving it?
I want to preface this by saying I'm very scared by jump scares. Body horror doesn't really affect me a ton.
Yeah.
And just general tension in a scene doesn't really bother me a ton. I'm giving this a 6.
Right.
Because it is so horrific body gore, and the tension, maybe because of that, really it's unnerving. It is very unnerving to watch. It was not fun. I mean, it was fun in the sense that I was like, man, this is so good, but I legitimately am cringing and it's hard for me to watch, So I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. I'm going to give this a 3 for the foot.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I am a person who I watch Hostel without flinching, right?
Exactly,
Gore don't mess with me. that foot fucking messed with me. Like, that was rough.
He goes like finger deep in his foot.
Oh,
It's gross.
this made me want to watch The Substance again, though. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. But that's your scary scale.
Paige, let me just say this. 3, because of the foot, is also the same rating I gave Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was the Foot Clan. Anyway,
Right.
Paige, this week you made us watch Revenge. What are you going to make us watch next week? Oh, you're not.
I'm not.
It's listener
It's
request.
listener
I
request.
just remembered. And this month, the listeners picked, I thought, some great Final Four contenders for Women Who Kill Month, and they were Orphan First Kill, Serial Mom, Last Night in Soho, and Cocaine Bear, which, love that pick. But I think this is the closest the listener request has ever been, because Cocaine Bear came in third with 26%. Last Night in Soho came in second with 27%. And the winner of this month's listener request is Orphan First Kill at 28%, guys. So your homework for next week is that Orphan First Kill, where we get to revisit the, I guess, franchise some 13 years after it initially started, I guess. And I think she's supposed to still look like a child. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens next week, guys. Check back for the Orphan First Kill. Make sure you do your homework first, though.
Hey, Todd, do you have any reviews for us?
I do. And, oh, damn, we actually got quite a few Apple reviews. Man, I'm terrible at checking the Apple reviews because, honestly, it's just easier. Like, Spotify makes it easier to see their comments than Apple makes it easy to see their reviews.
Yeah.
But let me just read Lady Screams a Lot's 5-star review.
Great name. Great name. I love that.
Legit came in Wednesday. The title of the review is 3 full catalog listens in a year. I'm fine. This is fine.
Dang.
So
That's a
I'm
lot.
immediately concerned about Lady Screams a Lot. But
I hope you work in data entry or something where you can just put headphones on and zone out, and that's why that happened.
that is the only acceptable way. Yes. Okay. But they say, a perfect blend of humor, horror, and surprisingly insightful commentary. Even though I miss Mikey's humor, we all do. In quotations, they put, he just ran into the store for milk and snack shells. He'll be back.
Back at any time. Yeah,
Anytime,
I'm
guys.
sure.
He's going to be back at any moment. Listening to Todd and Paige is equivalent of a weekly spooky sleepover with a group of friends, one of whom is bravely hiding behind a pillow. 5 stars for keeping us laughing through the blood and guts. Thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. Lady Screams a Lot.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's a good reason to scream, and that's the reason you're screaming a lot. And if you want to have me read your 5-star review and or Spotify comment, leave us a 5-star review and or Spotify comment, and I'll do just that.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Yeah, have an amazing week, guys. Bye! This director slaps nerds.